I've realised no one's actually gone on here and talked about just go to university for 1 year and drop out. There's no damage done to that at all. So if you're like the kind of guy who's like, I kind of want the university experience, but you don't really care about the course and stuff like that, bro, and you actually want to make money like doing something other than like, I mean, you don't make money at university, you just go into debt. So if you're that kind of guy who's more like knowledgeable about like the real world and just wants a university experience for a bit, go to uni for a year and drop out. This is why, okay? It's better than being at home at the age of 18, 19, mainly because I went to Manchester University. I had so much fun, the nightlife was great, it was so social. The main really like pro of it is moving away from home. I didn't realise how much moving away from home would just elevate your mental health, elevate all parts of your life. Like you have so much freedom when you move out of the house. I did not realise that at all. I thought it was just, I didn't think it was that exciting until I actually got to the accommodation and realised that I was living with 11 random people, and 6 of them were girls and 5 of them were boys. So you can imagine how much of a good experience I had in terms of that social dynamic of just getting along with like the people that you live with and things like that. But one thing that I would say is go to university for a year, because you can change your identity within that year. So when you're at home and you have the friends from school, they sort of like know about your past, they know about your ex-girlfriend who might have been a bit of a hoe, they know about like that time in school where you were like a porn addict or whatever, the time that you were, they know all these stories about you. They know you as like the weirdo in school. I don't know, but they know you maybe as the gamer guy. The list goes on, right? But this really is a massive tip. So when you go to a university like Manchester or like Nottingham, you're not the only one from your school going. There's gonna be like a few people from your school going as well. And they're gonna wanna like be close to you. They're gonna wanna just morph. I don't know, they're gonna wanna be close, sap your energy, take all your freedom away from you. You gotta hold back. You gotta go your separate way. You really do. These people that wanna maybe live with you during the first year, just say no. Just say no and just brutally just forget about your old friends. Just forget about them. Why? They'll hold you back. There's a reason why they want to be with you and like spend time with you during the first year, but mainly because they're not confident in themselves that they'll actually be able to make new friendships. If you're the kind of guy or girl or whatever who's quite confident going into social environments and wants to have that experience of meeting new people, you got to kind of say goodbye. And if you see them in the club or whatever, just, hi, how are you? Boom. I know for a fact this is good advice because I actually did the opposite. So I was friends with these two, I was friends with this one guy from school a few years back. Like, so he went probably like year 10 or something like that. I know him from, and I've known him for years, right? And we reconnected through university, and it was going well, whatever. And I was also friends with this guy from school as well, and we had like a little trio going on. And looking back on it, I gave them way too much value, way too much time. I introduced them to way too many people. I let them in my circle, even if they weren't giving me anything back. Now I have a mentality where creating friendships, I think of it purely as transactional and like a business move, because I look back at me being friends with these two people where when I was at university, just to give you a bit of context, I was the guy literally creating parties, hosting pre-drinks, telling people which club to go to, setting random people up like on dates, like I swear to God. So I was really like pioneering this university accommodation. And then because these two guys were next to me as well, they had a lot of access. I mean, for example, to girls and things like that, and I just got nothing back from it. And I've realised, those two guys also did me wrong in the end. So that's why I really create new from. Just start fresh, man. Just honestly, just start fresh. And I did just subtly, foreshadow about the sex stuff. I mean, I just want to say this up front because when I was 17 and I started to think about university, I didn't realise actually how promiscuous girls were during university. I thought, yeah, they might be promiscuous, but only to like, I didn't really believe I could get all the women and stuff like that. I didn't believe it at all until I got there. You'll have so much access to sexual intercourse, like it's actually disgusting. It genuinely is disgusting. I never took advantage of that access. I went in there thinking, I'm so excited, I'm gonna speak to all these girls and things like that. And then when all these girls were calling me a fuckboy, like, even though they don't know me, I bet you've had sex with all these different girls, I realised, you know what, I could actually have sex with all these girls, but I want to be the one that's untouchable. I really do. I want to be the social guy who's secretly on self-improvement and secretly just untouchable and just a man of God. So I actually deferred away from all this degeneracy and promiscuous behaviour. And more on that, just a bit of like advice for you. I mean, I feel like I managed to get the dynamic right where the girls thought I was a fuckboy and I secretly wasn't, and that's a perfect dynamic to have. But I completely understand for like someone your age, 18 years old, you could just go crazy. I mean, there's this one girl who, she lived in the middle of nowhere. She was a virgin. I was friends with her as well. I was friends with everyone though. And then as soon as she got to university, she turned into a complete whore. So I'm talking about, she had sex with 6 different guys within a week. A complete whore. And like, I got along with this girl as well. During like the first few weeks of university, and like we had conversations, and I was just telling her like, you're just a hoe. Like, you're actually disgusting. And she respected me telling her that, and I don't think she changed at all. You can't change women who are on this degenerate path, and they'll understand in the future why it's so detrimental. But yeah, more on degeneracy, because university is a really degenerate place, but you can also have fun there and improve like I have. That's why you only go there for a year. So drugs, let's just get this conversation out of the way. It's a massive part of university. So in the real world, you can't just walk around smoking weed in the real world. That's can't be the case. You gotta go somewhere a bit secretive. You gotta like go to a car park. I don't know, but you can't just walk around town smoking weed, okay? But in this university accommodation and in all these accommodations, there's no police. There's like a few security guards who just walk around sometimes and just watch you smoke weed. Yeah, it's literally, you're allowed drugs. Like, the thing is, if the security guards told the police about all these drugs, it'd be such a hassle. The police, they don't want to deal with it because every single accommodation has a drug table. You wouldn't have heard of a drug table before because you're quite young. And I know I'm 20 years old and calling you young, but if you've ever witnessed a drug table, it's crazy. You've got every single drugs that I haven't even heard of, pills, like lines of cocaine. I've never touched a drug in my life, but one thing that my heart still wrenches for is the fact that I was this social guy who was telling everyone to go to this party, go to this pre-drink, and all that happened at these pre-drinks was drugs, sex, and all the rest of it. So I look back on that and think, okay, yes, amazing, I learned loads of social skills, but I was hosting all these events where all it was drugs. So am I the problem? Anyway, I mean, that's quite a dark thought that maybe I shouldn't even share on social media, but because I've never touched a drug, I'd let people know that. I mean, I'd fucking let people know that. Like, I'd be sat around this drug table because I was the only person in the accommodation who didn't smoke weed or whatever. So 11 other people did. I was the only one that didn't. I'd sit on that table and be like, that's so disgusting. And just look around and just grimace at them. That's so disgusting. What would your parents think? I'd say this, and even though they were high and on drugs, they'd look at me and all of a sudden I could just see in their eyes all this high has just disappeared, and I'd thrive off that energy. I'd thrive off it. So some advice for you is, if you've never touched a drug in your life, university is a time to do that, but don't do it. Be that guy who's super, you're just against all forms of self-harm. Now, quite a big part of university for a lot of people are societies. For me, it wasn't really that big of a part because I played rugby, and you had something called the Rugby Society at Manchester Metropolitan University. And this was like not fun at all for freshers. They'd get you to do all these kinds of challenges. For example, at the rugby one, they went into my accommodation. They tried to get me to get fully naked and just put a sock on my dick and then go on your knees, and then someone else nearly fully naked just with a sock on their dick wrestles to try and get the sock off the other person's dick. That's what they tried to get me to do. I was like, who the fuck do you think I am? Like, I'm not doing that. Ugh, that's gay. And like, again, it's like, of course it's gay, right? Of course it's gay. But next thing you know, because I said no, they got another fresher to do it. And then in my accommodation, there was just two fucking nearly naked people. So that sounds like a funny story, but there's actually a lesson from that. The society that you join is really important. So the rugby one, like, genuinely just cross it off. Even if you're really good at rugby, play rugby, but don't be a part of this society, and don't really be that close to the people that you play rugby with. Like, I'm sorry. Like, also the girls, they actually love a rugby player. A lot of the girls love a rugby player, and especially the Welsh girls, because there's quite a lot of people from Wales that go to Manchester University because it's quite close. They were really into like me because I was good at rugby and things like that. But again, you don't care about that. Fuck that off. Join the football one. Even if you might not be that good at football, start playing football and join the football one. That's how you actually make friends with cool people. And like, it's just not weird. It's not, you know what I mean? Or just join any society that just isn't gay. I'm telling you, the rugby one's gay. But yeah, on this channel, I'm going to be talking about loads of lessons that I learned from university, because I had a great time there. I was super social, had fun. So you don't need to subscribe if you don't want to see me again, but I'd suggest subscribing because I'm going to be a killer. And yeah.